Welcome to the third installment of the Abstract Podcast, and today we got a plethora of topics, but before we get into that, let's introduce some of the co-hosts. Ant, how are you?
I am peachy. I'm doing wonderful. Awesome. As always.
Yeah, this guy fucking sucks. And then, of course, Amos. How are you, buddy?
That's my dead name. Okay, we've been over this, Ace.
Okay,
so little update from last episode.
Yeah.
I went for a whole gender change and name change. I prefer to go by Yen now, and I use she/her pronouns instead. So I'd like you all to respect that.
It looks like even your Twitter ad had like a little bit of a transition. So
yeah.
Yeah. So
going for rebranding.
So
listen. It is Pride Month. We have to have our diversity. So here we are. We came back only for Pride Month, just for this.
Yeah. You see, the old Amos. We're not going to talk about him much. Evil stuff happened.
Especially with the allegations pushed against them.
Yeah, some horrendous allegations came to our door.
That 15-year-old dude.
Crazy fuck. But anyways, right? Anyways,
later.
Yeah. Anyways, what's up, guys? So, how much do you guys actually know about like the FCK at the top of your head? Like, I know it's been a while since we went over it.
But the FCK, I wouldn't know a thing.
I watched Akumu's long video while I was at work for it took a couple days to listen to it, but so I know the broad strokes of it. So I don't know the nitty gritty because I only joined ArtCom recently, or knowing stuff about ArtCom recently. So I know the broad strokes.
All right. So I'll just give the little TLDR, and then we'll try to if you want to add on to it, because we know we got a little bit of a little bit of an expert on the lore, a little bit of FCK lore.
Yeah, it's me, not Yen. It's me.
I
know everything from the beginning. I was there.
I watched Akumu be slain. You was there too. You fucking hell. But yes. So okay, just basically start. There was a server that was made called the Fruitcake Club, and it was made around 2019 with the sole purpose of these bigger commentators to come together to try to go against Madame, right? A person that I could best describe as a female Leafy clone, unironically.
Yeah.
And she had a little bit of controversy with Slimmers that had to do with art and harassment, and apparently Madame is pretty infamous for a few reasons. They actually attempted to try to dox someone too. So lovely person, right? But they were 19 at the time, and Slimmers was only just a wee 15-year-old, right? So these adult commentators use that as a point to all defend Slimmers, being like, Slimmers just a innocent 15-year-old, and you're harassing them, right? So a lot of people made this point. If there's just to name a few, I believe there's Peaches. I believe Ponder made the point. I can't remember. They just said minor or 15. But I'm pretty sure Nezzy made the point, a few, just to name a few, right? But quite a bit of people already knew that this person was 15. But then this server would take a quick turn, right? This server would go from once was a safe haven for 15-year-olds to a hell. A safe place for minors to explore different avenues, if you will. You see, a lot of fucked up stuff happened, right? There was a person that we will quickly be able to introduce ourselves. It would be known as Toasty Vanilla. Now, this person was a very prominent figure in this lore. They were very degenerate. They were technically, I believe, they were 17 at the very beginning of the server, but then turned 18.
Yeah,
but then
beginning.
Very, very, very early beginnings. Yeah, but then they turned 18. And this is where things would get interesting. Because not only was Slimmers the only miner in the server, there was a plethora of other miners. Just to name a few, there was Teddy That Draws, who was 16 at the time. There was a couple there was a 13-year-old in the server. There was a 12-year-old in the server. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Was the 12-year-old's name ever found out? I don't remember that part.
So the 12-year-old was, I believe it was Zach, who was the 12-year-old, and then the 13-year-old was called Snail.
Right. And it's kind of hard to tell as well, because there could be more minors in the server from my knowledge, but obviously more than those four, but I'm just talking about even for all the people that's come out, I'm pretty sure there's still more that haven't. But there's a lot. There's a lot. Now, the reason why we even have to talk about that there's minors in the server is because these adults got a little quirky, if you will, a little
frisky,
suspicious,
as you would say.
a little frisky, where it would range from talking a little inappropriately to requesting weird art from sexualized art from these minors, like Toasty did with Slimmers, or dedicating a whole NSFW chat to the local 15-year-old that everyone knew was 15. Yeah, no, it was pretty fucked. Okay, but this server was covered up. Yeah, whatever. This server was covered up for like 4 to 5 years, but nobody really knew about it. Nobody knew about it. Okay, but what was fucked? Okay, is some of these people were just quiet about it, and we'll get into like one of those people way later too, as well, if we want to talk about this part of them a little bit. But some main focuses as of recently was like Nezzy Monster, who recently revealed that because there was like this whole thing where they argued with Toasty to like not be like what was it, like inappropriate around the minors. So
yeah, and having the whole so one part of the FCK in particular was there was a channel called Slimmers' Art Shack, and it was like it was meant, every server's got like an art channel, to post art. This one was different. It had a lot of porn, a lot of like NSFW art made, some by Slimmers, who, as it was just said, was one of the minors. And Nezzy Monster went to Toasty and said, "Hey, you need to get rid of this. You need to get rid of this now." But it was a bit too little, too late.
Right, and it was more recently revealed because some people speculated, right? Some people were going to be given the benefit of the doubt, like they did that, like a lot of people took that action and assumed that they did it because they cared about the minor safety.
No.
But there was, even like Akumu even speculated that wasn't the real reason. And when Lio Convoy had that call about it, they revealed that it was to protect their reputation because they were worried about being called a hypocrite by Ben the Looney, which is fucking wild. Out of all the things to admit, right? This person would usually lie to save their reputation. I'm surprised they just outwardly said that. I'm not gonna lie. It was only shocking that they admitted that, because it's like usually they've like Nezzy has like a track record of just doing really fuck shit and just conveniently forgetting, like whether it's like they slandered I think it was Teddy that draws of being a sexual harasser, and like just wouldn't back down. They lied about Akumu being a doxer, and like even though they weren't a doxer, and like they would just do shit like this. But anytime they were pressed on it, it's like, I don't really remember, or something like that.
The issue with Nezzy is they would claim, I think they are like claiming it was like medical, like, I forget stuff, like a lot. I have memory issues, but it doesn't stop the fact that they did it. But somehow this excuse worked for quite some time, and yet they were able to remember hyper-specific details, but not the details that would get them in a lot of trouble, which is why we get the term the art commentary amnesia that keeps getting thrown around now.
Well, it's a perfect like excuse. There's two excuses I've noticed, not just art commentators, but commentators use when they get into like themselves in a little bit of a pickle. It's a joke, or I forgore every time. It's one of those two, and it annoys me every time I hear one of them because I know that's when you immediately can smell it. You're like, all right, you're just lying to me. You knew exactly what was happening. That's when I immediately can tell. There's like most of the time, it's like it's not that you forgore or like I was just joking. It's dude.
I mean, I was just gonna like.
It's incredibly interesting. Get fucked. It's incredibly interesting with commentators in particular, because these guys like they hyper analyze autistically over like the information of a situation, like every single detail. They'll write these like massive research scripts and documents, and then they somehow forget something when it pertains to them. It's just really, really convenient.
Yeah, they usually forget something that's negative toward them. That's like, it's just a key factor every time. It happens all the time. No, exactly. I forgot that I did that.
Only reason why like I even bring up Nezzy is because like that call with Lio was like pretty recent, like after like the Maxim drop.
Oh yeah,
because like there was like a lot of things that happened, like whether Fuchsia Butters went on hiatus because they were pressed for liking aged up like cartoon character porn and being really degenerate and even like making sexual insults at what they known was a minor. like even calling them like a cum chalice and saying like one of my favorites is "suck my pink pube dick," which awesome,
Actually
awesome,
Actually paid.
definitely. But like that person's gone. Dual Tones was on hiatus because they, even in their own admission in the video, they admitted like to the narrative of they just watched a bunch of kids get groomed and did nothing about it, which is fucking ludicrous. It was, I would say, like objectively, there's more evidence to suggest that they lied about how much that they knew, and they knew more than they were like willing to like lead on, because it's like they knew Slimmers, like they knew, like they commented under Ponder's video, which called Slimmers a minor. They knew that they were in like the NSFW chat of a minor, and they just did nothing. They objectively did nothing about it. So it's like very clear that they like. Another thing that was suspicious to me was like around this time, this another thing got leaked was like Thuman's interview with Nezzy and Doodle Tones in the same call, and it's very clear. It's a very clear attempt of Nezzy and Doodle Tones desperately trying to get control of the narrative from like a bigger creator before anyone else touches it and actually looks into it, because it's like. They lie a couple times, they are misdirecting a couple times, and are really trying to get Thuman on their side. And honestly, right, after doing that, obviously, that they know what they did was wrong. And if Doodle Tones is a part of that and trying to cover something up, that definitely shows me that they know more than they're leading on, at least in my own opinion with that.
It is interesting because the main reason, and people sometimes forget this, the only reason really why Susie left the internet due to FCK, it was because it was one of the demands that the victims of FCK made to them for them to have a hiatus. That was the reason why they left.
Yeah,
and they may have felt some guilt. In the modern perspective now, I doubt that. I doubt that so much, given everything that else has come out with Doodle Tones. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be so real. I don't believe that they ever really went on hiatus, dude. Like, if they're keeping tabs on like the hit pieces made against them to show their therapist, bro. Like, I talked about that like on like Falky's stream when I went on there, because it's like there's no way, there's literally no way, right, that this person was not keeping tabs constantly. It's actually fucking insane to me, because they knew that the video was strike down. They complained about it on Twitter, and it's like, okay, so you're actively watching hit pieces on you. How is that taking a break? Unironically, like, how is that taking a break if you're showing your therapist hit pieces made on you, bro?
Yeah.
Like, that's
it hurts my brain, the fact that she like is showing her therapist YouTube drama hit pieces. I can't wrap my head around that. I think
because she didn't trust
online, dude.
Yeah, she didn't trust herself, right? She didn't trust herself to go over like the actual things herself. So she had to like trust Akumu's hit piece and all these other people who made videos on them. So like that unironically means that like this therapist was either watching like Mr. Medic or Akumu's videos, which is like really funny to think about. Yeah.
I even struggle to believe that the therapist was even able to watch all these videos. Like, could you imagine? Just like, because why would you as a therapist sit down, like, we got all these other patients, why are you going to watch like a 6 hours worth of content because it's Doodle Tones? Like,
yeah,
you're not going to have the time for that.
And speaking of therapists, I think Nezzy was also kind of lying about their therapist too, because they said that they had the mental downward spiral on Twitter, right? And like unironically, they said that the therapist approved of like the Twitter thread before they posted it, which I just don't agree with. Like, that doesn't, like, there's no way that that's the case. If they understand that this topic makes you get like suicidal ideation, like, why would a therapist ever like give a thumbs up to that? Like, that is, like, that feels like cap. Like, I'm not gonna, like, either they just did it as a cover up, or they just never told a therapist. Like, I don't know. It's just so stupid.
Well, an interesting thing about it is if they were all truthfully honest about what they did, like, to their therapists, like, patient confidentiality only goes so far until it's an actual crime and the therapist has to go to the police.
Well, that'd be funny though. It's just like like a police cam footage of just like being dragged out of their house.
That would be awesome, dude. That would actually be so awesome. You know, the same people.
Doodle Tones.
Yeah. No, it'd be so funny if we get like recordings of that. No, it'd be funny if we got recordings of, you know how we got the popular MMOs one? They just randomly uploaded, this is Doodle Tones. And this
but like
is dragged out of their house.
The Anision Chris Hansen video.
Yeah. Have a seat.
So yeah, I mean, that pretty much gets a really good recap, because there are some people that, wasn't really well known, and we have, Amos in the call with us right now, right?
Yeah.
So that made that made
Poor
a video on Toasty Vanilla and their footprint. So I could pass the mantle to you if you want to explain their transformation, their transition, if you will.
Their transition, if you will. So
Yeah.
we did this specifically in Pride Month because we knew we'd be covering Toasty Vanilla. So this is on topic. So Toasty Vanilla, may have mentioned earlier, they're one of the people who was in FCK. Did some very disgusting stuff. As soon as all the hit pieces hit the fan, they ran. There'd been signs early on, even when Akumu and Laka Malaka had been covering FCK, that they were going to try and rebrand as a VTuber and do networking in that space. That kind of got tracked. They deleted the original account. It was under Ruby Missile Launcher was the original name. After Teddy's video statement came out, and I was a bit more refreshed on it, I did some looking, and I found through a few other different VTubers, and also by the model and the name being so similar to their old one, but they were still about and kicking in the modern year of 2025, even though everything had happened 5 years ago. So
Crazy.
I did some research, went around, found all the VTubers, because I was under the impression that these guys just didn't know who this person was. I was being, some may say, a bit too good faith, but what can you do? Went around to all of them, had a lot of mixed results from each of these creators. Some of them tell me just to fuck off straight off the bat. Others were a bit more willing to listen. Kinda. But it all culminated into this video that I did. And after that, a few people back down their statements, for example, Team and Scylla. Very much loved here,
Yeah,
we are Team and Scylla. Yeah, we are literally Team and Scylla.
Team and Scylla.
Okay. Yeah, we are Team and Scylla day ones. Okay.
Day one.
Yeah, we love that. Yeah.
To explain a bit better about who Team and Scylla was, so one of the people who I reached out, they knew Toasty. They'd known Toasty for a while. And they had a very colourful reaction. They basically told me to go fuck myself, and that was it.
Gulp.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So my video went out, and then after a while, some people, apparently, it's this guy called GivenAnt. He went into their live stream, and said, "Yen says hi."
Yeah.
And Team and Scylla saw this as quite the attack on them, as harassment.
They got us.
They found it.
Into the main meat of this story. After my video, Toasty reached out to me, and I had an interview with them, with me and Fuman, and we asked them all sorts of questions, and they basically lied to every single one. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. Some of the lies that they decided to spin about FCK. For example, people who know about FCK may remember the call or the interview that Toasty had with the name's Junkie, I'm pretty sure, where they admit to masturbating in a VC and Hopeless Peaches joining, and was basically told them can you fuck off? I'm trying to jerk off in here. Keep in mind, right? This is the FCK server, so any miner could have joined at any time. But they had told me and Fuman they had lied about this story, and they were just making it up. Just complete bullshit. I'm gonna be so for real. They definitely did it. They're definitely the kind of person to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you was there too.
He was there too.
Yeah, you saw it happen. Fuck you know.
It's messed up. But
yeah. It was definitely I've watched through the full call. I don't know if Ant has yet, but it's definitely a very I think one of the points other than the funny moments where it's are you gonna pull a screenshot on me?
Oh yeah.
Gulp, which it's
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was listening to it at work, and when I heard that I just snickered at my desk. I was
oh, they got me. No, but the thing I remember even talking about this too. It's how the hell, right, are they going to look at Slivers and say 18-15 is an okay age gap, right? They understand that fully, right? With the 3 years thing, right? And they say that, and that was their mindset. But then when they were also 18, and they were knowingly having sexual DMs with a 13-year-old. They're like, "Oh, I don't know why I did that." It's like, okay,
that's weird.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
Also,
Happens,
just
I guess.
I find it interesting the answer they gave. Well, we gave them the hypothetical of like, if you knew their age, would you have still talked that same way to them? They're like, I don't know. That's insane.
Yeah,
That is
maybe,
insane.
maybe harder.
Like, God,
God.
because their whole excuse was like, well, I thought they were all Slimers' age, which is still fucked. 15, right? You know.
Yeah.
So, but if your answer is I don't know to whether or not you would have talked sexually to a 13-year-old, that kind of moves your bracket down a bit. That's like literally. I mean,
They love their 13-year-olds.
They love
Fucking
finger looking good. Okay.
Oh, dude, that's
Okay. That's gonna be taken out of context so bad.
that part of the call in itself is quite interesting, but then you got to remember we also did just pull out the fact that we did know that they knew the age of the people of the person who was 13, because they make this whole like reverse lolly rape joke in FCK. So,
yeah.
dude, so if you think 15's okay, surely you wouldn't apply that standard to Slimers. So surely that must imply that you knew they were younger than Slimers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and you're done, buddy. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, the call was interesting, and yeah, we definitely the VTubers were retarded, as we found. Came quick to know. I mean, okay, just a quick thing on the VTubers, right? It's like if you got to be really careful. Like if you're gonna defend someone publicly, look into it yourself. Okay, don't just listen to like what the person who's like on the fucking hot seat says to you. Like you could still listen to their side. But like, don't just only go off of what they say and just run defense for them. That is retarded.
Especially if it's something serious. Like, especially if it's something serious like this, I would definitely verify that.
And that's why like people like in Scylla got like absolutely mauled because they just believe. Like I think like what they were like basically saying is they just believed them at their word and didn't really look into it themselves.
That's what I believe. I think that's what the majority of them did. Which like I can understand like, oh, you're your friend, you want to believe them. Like I get it, but. Especially if it's on serious claims like this and you were just like actively ignoring. And then I think there's like one point where one of them even said they looked into it themselves and didn't think it was an issue at the time.
Yeah, that was actually a lie though.
Yeah,
like, and Scylla tried to claim that about like Galaxy is okay.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like that was a complete lie because they pretty much said something more on the lines of like if like we're gonna put guilt on anyone, it shouldn't just be Toasty. Like there's more people guilty than just Toasty, which that's fine. That's an okay take. That's not
that.
That's not a this is a nothing burger. That's not what they said. Which I don't know how they translated it like that. Yeah. I'd still would like to talk to Ancilla to try to understand their mindset.
I would love to talk to Ancilla.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. No, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. They made it pretty clear.
Well, they've kind of reopened now, haven't they? They if you remember my follow like during that video containing the Toasty call, they did say if people asked about it in live streams, then they would be willing to answer.
But I did.
Unfortunately, they have you both blocked. So
I asked them. They hid me. I said nothing. The server. They banned me. Like I tried to talk to them, but they're an open book. They're transparent.
I also got banned. I got blocked on Twitter when I called them out for the Twitch stream thing, and then they banned me from their chat. And then they were apparently I didn't even know this until Yen's video that they were calling me a harasser, and that was the funniest thing in the world to me.
Are the harassers in the room with us right now? And yes, me.
I remember that premiere.
Yeah.
No, me and Ace were in a call when we were like listening to the premiere. You could tell Ace I bursted out laughing. I thought that was the
evil.
funniest thing in the world. I didn't did anything.
I mean, you can even tell in the video. I was like, okay, lol. I guess.
W.
I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I think there was a point where they said that they were going after like Toasty Vanilla's partner. Did you get any clarification on that, Yen?
No, Toasty Vanilla's partner. I even put in I put in it was in Scylla's partner.
In Scylla's, okay.
Yeah. So it was in
Scylla's partner. I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. I made that point.
Wait. Can you tell me who that is real quick, and then we could get to the bottom of it? No. Wait, hold on. Tell me who that is. We'll get to the bottom of it. I'll take a look and
Well, Like, I'm trying to think, because like, I've only gone into Team Incilla's chat, Team Incilla's Discord, and going on at them on Twitter. That's the only thing. I don't even know who they're
honestly
referring to.
My theory is like if they took like what you said like as Yen says highest harassment. My theory is that their partner just happened to be in that stream call,
It's
and
possible,
they just took
yeah.
that, and like that's why they like if they consider what happened to them harassment, I'm gonna assume that their partner was in the call and they were like, yeah, my partner was harassed.
Narc fake alt account, and I was
dead.
I think they were referring to a different situation. I think there was something in the DMs. I did put it.
I don't know.
So
I heard that. I was like, I don't even know who that is, so I don't know how I could harass somebody if I don't know who they are.
Yeah, it's like, how could I harass if I don't know who they are? Like egoing them, like what the fuck? You only got like 2 subs, bro. Who even is you, bro?
Like, what's the deal with like every time like I go after somebody, I always get like called a harasser almost every single time, or like I'm going too far. It's getting ridiculous.
Isn't that well? I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're going out of your way to go after people, and like that could be just harassment. That's fucked up.
Look, joining discords. That's what I do.
We have green light is a go. Green on tango. Get them.
That's how somebody described it. Somebody described me like how what I do is like they see like, oh, this person's a approved target, then I'm off the leash and I'm going after them.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Mission accomplished. Successfully said hi Yen in the chat.
Yeah.
Just fist in the air, just like all night.
Yeah, it's like the ending of Breakfast Club. Usually, it's just fucking fist in the air. Don't you forget about it.
That's actually peak.
Yeah, but the only other thing I'm going to touch on the FCK stuff is that ludicrous fucking like Twitter exchange that Yen had with Miss ZZ, bro. Which a little bit of context, and I know Yen's gonna be gleeful. I'll let Yen talk about the actual interview. But like Miss ZZ was another person in the FCK, right? And they actually, really liked thighs. Okay, that part. I guess some people are debating, but really they sent their thighs. They set their thighs in the server and would request thigh pics from minors, and even looking through back some stuff again. When Akuma was arguing with them in like DMs or whatever, they randomly just sent like what they known was a 16-year-old at the time, just their thighs, just for no fucking reason. Okay, that's cool. But yes, they sent it to minors and received or attempted to receive them for minors. Very interesting character. But you know what, Yen? It is your interview. So, like with this ZZ person, so I'll let you have the mantle on this one a bit.
Yeah. Well, some of that wording is just really interesting. For example, I did question them. I wasn't aware of the part where they sent Akumu pictures in their DMs, but even in Akumu's comment sections, they would post like this weird like what do you call it? Copy pasta, like really sexual copy pasta. Akumu's like comment section, and they're like, their response to that was like, I didn't even really view Akumu as a person. Like, I wasn't thinking of age. Like, you fucking kidding me? Like, Akumu's age is mentioned several times in FCK logs, along with the fact that every single person in the group that went after Akumu was like, this annoying little kid, he needs to grow up. Yeah, and then it's like, dude, you knew. They 100%
no,
knew.
You don't understand though yet. You don't understand. Miss ZZ's like the Dexter Morgan of child groomers. They go after the bad kids.
Morgan.
I didn't really like that name.
You're the child groomer toucher. Never really liked that name.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. But yeah.
But no, it's interesting.
Stop it!
Their reasoning for the requesting of people's 5 pictures in FCK was a hazing ritual, and the one case where
hazing
one of the right, it's insane, and they were explained like, oh yeah, well one of the minors, I didn't even know their age until like after I requested it, and it's like, dude, you
then I asked again. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, several cases of it. They deny like the fact that there was like weird sexual role plays in the VCs, but I don't believe them. There's several victim testimonies of it happening. Of course, it's not recorded, but you have so many different victims saying about this sort of stuff, and you have so much like backing, like evidence and other things about FCK. It's just hard not to believe it. It's insane. Like they meanwhile they'll flame like the responsibility of what happened in FCK onto Toasty and Nezzy Monster. Even and they were like, yeah, I think what was their wording? It was like, I was given the label of being a part of a group I didn't want anything to do with. Dude, what do you mean? You're like one of the main pillars of FCK. You're one of the main people surrounding the situation. You can't just claim like, yeah, well, I wasn't as big as Toasty. It's like, dude, you're way bigger than Toasty. The only reason why Toasty actually got any relevance, fun fact, was because of their shout out from Timeworks. That gave them the majority of their sub count, is what I learned. So
this is some fun stuff. No, but like unironically, I'm pretty sure Mrs. Easy and Toasty Vanilla kind of like used like the same wording, like where they try to explain why stuff like this was normal on the server. They try to say it was just like the culture of the server.
Oh yeah,
which is just a fucking insane thing to even describe it as. Like, how did it become the culture of the server to ask minors for their thigh pics, bro? Like,
they make it sound like it's a frat club, but like, it's just the culture of the server. Meanwhile, you had roles specifically in the server for like, oh yeah, do you have small tits? Do you have big tits? And one of the minors had a role which said they had small tits. You know,
hey,
you have to,
don't knock it before you try it, okay? Like,
yeah. You have like, what was it? Are you a virgin or are you not a virgin? It's just hypersexual activity in a server meant to be about, yeah, let's help other creators get together and create this project and help someone out of this awful situation with Madame. But it's just so disturbing, and it's just such a bit of it's just a peak bit of hypocrisy of all these people who be like, yeah, I hate groomers, I hate pedophiles, but behind closed doors they're just like, yeah,
grooms kids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, you know, like it's that meme. It's like you became the thing you swore to destroy, or something like that. No, this isn't you. You turned into the monster you were supposed to kill. Stop.
What are you doing? That's funny.
Fucking hell. Well, just to put a little bow tie onto this one, because if we really got into all the intricacies, I feel like we would be talking about this for ages. But I think that's a little good wrap up for that. So the next thing that we're going to get into, right? This stuff has been going on for a little bit longer, and I know it's probably going to be annoying too. But Saberspark, right?
Ultimate rape review. Ultimate.
Yeah. Okay, bro. Okay, calm down, buddy. Calm down.
I do not condone.
Yeah, no, I disavow. Yeah, dude, like, unironically, right? This was so left field. Okay, like, we had a person, right, named Brony Fandom, okay, where they had someone come to them, a mystery figure, and they were in a group chat with that person, the alleged victim in question, and KP and some other people. But essentially, right, Brony Fando and KP apparently didn't even really know each other at this time. They just kind of met through, I guess, their disliking of Saberspark, and they just kind of like dapped each other up and said, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." But like, okay, Brony Fando got like a lot of attention for anti-Saber stuff, I guess, but by making their Black Griffin document that's like 300 pages, and like they have that pinned or some whatever. That's being currently looked into, but that's going to be like for a different day when that actually does probably get like, you know, talked about. But as of right now, this alleged victim went to Brony Fandom to have their story published that they were allegedly raped twice by Saberspark. And this would be an incident that took place allegedly between 2012 to 2013. And one of them was at a Brony convention, and the other one, I believe, was at a party. But how this went down is actually... We'll get into the stories in a second. But they platformed it. A lot of people went crazy. KP made a video. Not a great video, no. And before we get into even like Saber's response to it, let's talk about the actual allegations itself. So, first time, 2012. Saber and the alleged victim in question, right, went together. And, you know, they got a little close. Okay. They were both adults. She was 18 and he was like a few years older. Okay. And you know what? She was a fan. but she wanted Vro, unironically, right? She wanted like to do something with him. They got close, and I guess how she described it is they had sex. Now, it does, even with her own description of it, it doesn't even come off as rape. It comes off as like they both, like wanted sex, right? But I think she was more looking for a relationship, a long-term relationship. Well, Saberspark looked at it as a one-night stand, which makes a lot more sense why he went to go wash up, came back, and said, "Friends? Like, want to be
Where
friends?
my hug at?
Yeah, where my hug at?" Like, he didn't want a long-term relationship, but she did. And she was obviously, she felt a little taken advantage of, because it's like, okay, I thought, we were going to like be a couple, not just friends. This is weird. Yeah, and I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Yeah, but anyways. They still like stay in like a friendship for like a year or so, right? And then the second incident happens. They're kind of like going back and forth, like between this. Before I get into that incident, they're kind of going back and forth. She wants a relationship. He's going, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe we could try it. Maybe not. If anything, he just kind of leads her on, which you could argue is a dick move, but that's not the same as rape, obviously. But then, second instance, he kind of like apparently makes out with her in an elevator, right? And they're kissing. He kind of presses himself on her, and then he kind of grabs her hand, and she follows him as he goes to the bathroom with her, and he guides her head down, right? And she, gives him the sloppy toppy. Now, again, they clean up, right? They clean up. And again, he asked again for friends. Now, how that even was described, right? She never says no. She never shows any signs of saying no, not even with body language, according to her. She just said she kind of just went with it. Because I don't even know her exact reasoning. Like, I don't think she like irons it out. She just kind of like went with it because she just didn't really know like whether she wanted it or not. I guess she was a little iffy, but she never conveyed that. Which, again, in his perspective, he's saying it like she just followed him to the bathroom. She didn't even like restrain or fight back. She literally just went down to below the waist and actually did that. So it's like to call this rape again would still be a little like really extreme. What right. I guess it would be like rough in like communication. I guess if we're gonna criticize relationships, they should have had a stronger communication. But like to call this rape is extremely disingenuous.
I think it's overdramatic. I think it's very overdramatic. I think it's like you said. I think it's just simple like miscommunication. That's what I think personally.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like where I kind of just wrap it up to it as well. But like when KP talked about this, KP already had like a preconceived like hatred for Saberspark, and it wasn't exactly for Saberspark at this one point. He used to he had like an editor, right, that went by the name of Chris. Now this happened like literally like 13 years ago.
Mark, how could he?
No, yeah, Chris, how the fuck could he?
Finally, now, Chris, we finally have something. Okay,
fuck. Okay, buddy, calm it down. Calm your. Yeah, take it down, bro. Okay, but anyways, right. This Chris guy makes an uncomfortable joke about KP. However, he doesn't say it to her face, I guess. He's in a call with the boys. He says something really fucking weird, admittedly, right? He makes a weird comment about, like, doing something with her panties. Okay? Admittedly, it's weird. Okay? It's a little gross. But he never says it to her face. And to be honest, it's like, personally, would I do anything with that comment? Probably not. But she found out, like, a couple years later and decided to confront him on it. Now, what happens, right? She does confront him. And in that call, she even asks some questions where it kind of seems like she's trying to get a little bit more information on Saberspark, which is a little weird. Like, why Saberspark even employed him, or like why, like, how Saberspark is like as a boss, which is just really weird. But essentially, focusing on Chris for a second, he apologizes for what he did, right? He says that, like, it wasn't good to do. It was a couple years ago. He's like, he hasn't done the same thing since. No pattern of behavior. He's taken public accountability of it, right?
Right.
And yet, she still tries to use it as a point against Saberspark. And like, this was like, again, like now, like we fast forward to like a decade later, right? And then boom, she's trying to use Chris as a point. She's trying to use Chris as a point. Like, Saberspark, how could you hire this sex pest? And it's like, Okay, first off, bro, if we're going off that situation, dog, like, I'm gonna be so real, right? The amount of weird things I get about people saying things about me and not to my face, you know how gay it would look if I confronted them about it, if I found out what they said behind my back about it?
Decades
Like,
later. Or like days
yeah, it's
later.
like,
Or years
well,
later?
actually, not
Why do
even
I
days
say
later. Yeah, a couple years later, right?
Yeah.
Like, but like just in general, right? If I found out that like someone in this community said something disgusting about me, right? I think it's fair to be disgusted. I think it's fair to be creeped out, and I think it's fair to have like a level of caution around that person. But I would never say like, "Oh, I need to confront this guy now. I need to get to the bottom of it. Why they said this really weird, disgusting thing about me, and then make it like a public spectacle. Like, sorry, spectacle. That's so fucking bizarre."
It's pretty
Like,
obvious that I don't think she was, in my opinion, I don't think she was like disgusted with it. I think she saw an opportunity to go at Saberspark. She already has a history of disliking him. I think it was just a good opportunity. I think it was perfect for her to use it. So that's my opinion. I don't think she was trying to. I don't think she was like had an issue with that at all.
well, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could see the opportunist perspective, but I still think she was probably disgusted.
I think it
at
was
the time,
I think it was-
probably, but I'm talking about now when she put it in that video. It was clear. Like, to me, it comes clear as she didn't actually. To me, it doesn't seem like she doesn't care. It seems like she just wanted to go another reason to go at Saberspark and all these people that she disliked because she clearly has like a disdain for them. So I think it's definitely probably just opportunistic. I don't think like she actually really cares that deeply about it, as much as she like tries to paint herself as much as she cares about it.
And Yen, before I go to what I was saying, were you going to say anything or not?
I was going to say, I think it is a case of a lot of her personal grievances were voiced in that video. It was less. I think even the way the video was made, like we all know, it was just mainly about what's his name.
DA
it was
DA Games.
Yeah, DA Games. It was the main focus of the video, and then Saberspark was just attached onto the end. I feel like that's a whole part with. What was his name? The guy with the the guy who did the weird crew joke. I think that was just sort of in their mind. If I want to try and put myself on their shoes, it's kind of like a way of segueing away into Saberspark. It's really difficult because a lot of that part of the video is just personal grievances.
Well, the reason why it's also a little weird though, Yen, is because that originally was just going to be the video. DA Games and talking about Chris. Like the only thing that got really slapped on near the end was the rape story. So it's like that's so that means they would have just segued into like Saberspark over just the Chris thing alone. Like so, but
maybe they thought they didn't have enough with the rape allegation, that they just needed to like bolster it out with this other stuff from their personal experiences, and it probably didn't help with the clouding of their judgment because of their preconceived dislike for Saberspark.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's insane because when you go into the allegations, it just looks like uncomfortable miscommunication. Yeah. And when you go into, like, the Chris thing, it's like, I'm not going to really blame Saberspark for giving a guy a chance for not repeating a behavior from 10 years ago. Well, actually, 13 years ago, technically speaking. It's like, to try to use that as a point against Saberspark, it's like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. But I get why she's mad at Chris, but like, what more did she realistically want from him? Like, I don't know. It's like, she was actually asked this in like the Beckett video. I haven't got to watch the full thing yet, but I've seen the interview. And she was asked like, what would accountability for Chris look like? And she kind of was starting to like insinuate like him just fully gone and fired, like, just gone forever, which is fucking ludicrous. Like, but then when she was being pressed on it, then she started realizing that she was wrong, and just it was like pulling teeth, and she was like backing down a little bit, which is like,
I mean, that's why like I think it's more opportunistic, because to me how that interview came off is her just trying to like figure a reason to like rationalize what she wanted. It was out of pettiness, like she was just an opportunist. I think it's pretty clear to me.
Yeah. See, if he was still like this now, because you would think, right, big expose video, even no matter how bad it was, right, like learn about, Chris is a weirdo and they did all this stuff years ago. Employees of Saberspark who would be working with the guy would be like, oh wow, yeah, he's still doing that by now. I think we would have heard about that, but but we haven't. So
considering how hated the guy is, like that would have been like a thing that would have been brought up like easily, like within like the last couple years. but like I don't know, it just hasn't. Like that's just such a far reach, and like it doesn't help. Like it's crazy to even say this name being relevant in this drama, but she unironically went to like Angry Slug.
I made me so
like,
dude, I have had such a history with that guy. That guy just weasels his little grimy, greasy fingers into everything. I saw that. I was like, are you kidding me? Because I know people who've tried to reach out to her, and then Angry Slug, the doxer, got her as like an interviewer. I was like, I interviewed her. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the timing of it, like how he did it was like he did it pretty much right when she like took the video down.
Yeah,
which is like which I guess was like the perfect way to like perfect time to actually get her, because she did not like want to like talk to really anyone after that. But the thing is, right, the things she admits on this is insane. She admits to having a malicious bias against Saberspark. Like she unironically says she does have a bias against Saberspark. Like she does unironically say those words, which is fucking crazy. She admits that she has like she was not sent any evidence by this victim in question, right? Like no photos of them together, no DM logs, no call logs, no nothing, literally nothing. The best that they had to go off of was this person described Saberspark, and KP was like, that does sound like him based on my own experience. Yep. And it's like, dude, which is fucking insane. Okay, like that is literally fucking bullshit. But no, like that whole interview was crazy, and she even like said that it was like tough questions when Slug was just asking basic questions. Like these should have been the basic things that you should have already asked when handling this. It's absolutely fucking crazy. It's like, those were some toughies. It's like, dude, like I get it. Like
your address, where do you work, where do you?
Yeah. What's the 3 numbers on the back of your credit card? Like, fuck you. No, but like
normal Angry Slug questions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's like it's actually insane though, because it's like KP didn't even ask the basic questions you have to ask in the situation, which I know she said she doesn't have much experience, but then the next follow-up question would be, okay, then why did you put yourself in a situation that you literally have no experience to handle? And how it just comes off to me is the malicious bias like feature.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's malicious. It's maliciousness and also opportunistic. It's pretty. To me, it's just obvious. Just how she would.
She does have experience. She did a whole video on Lily Orchard. Yeah,
that's true.
You can't claim that she doesn't no experience at all. I understand that's like,
okay,
but yeah, you do one commentary video. You're not going to be.
Well, that's not even like. Well, okay. What I will say is like, there's obviously going to be a little bit of a difference, right? Because there's a difference between covering something and leading something. 100%. Leading something, you have to be very critically accurate, especially for rape stories, man. You cannot afford to get a single thing wrong, or else everyone's going to think that there's an inconsistency or you fucked something up, or like the story is not valid at all. And the fact that they were anonymous, like literally the person could have just been made up. Genuinely.
The anonymous part was really interesting given who the supposed victim was. Given how large that platform was, because it's not secret. It's Emmy.
I keep referring to them as alleged victim, but like they literally like had like their name included in like the mysterious Mr. Ender interview. So it's like, and like that's been like leaked before, and like this person, Emmy is a little bit interesting because I could 100% see KP and Brony being malicious, and like that's easy, but Emmy is a little interesting because it's like. I can't tell if they're malicious or retarded, but like, I think it's a little weird that they came to the two people that were obviously anti-Saber for their story. But another thing I find weird is they have their own huge platform. I don't understand why they didn't just platform it themselves, but they rather went to some random brony and some movie reviewer to platform their rape story.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't done any research into it myself, but from the little nuggets that I've been told, they've had their own drama with like they've had their own previous thing, like dramas with like how the whole affair with the Sonic voice actor for one.
Yeah, they've actually had previous sexual scandals, which like sex scandals apparently, which I'll go like I'll research that a little bit more as well, but like I know I've been like seeing a little bit of it as myself, but it's actually fucking insane. And it's like I feel like it's not crazy to come to the conclusion that this person might be a little bad faith or malicious in some things, or could be like potentially stretching the truth here, given their like previous, digital footprint. But their original reasoning that was insane to me is the reason why they didn't file a police report usually, right, I'm used to rape victims not reporting to the police what happened to them, whether it's discomfort or they can't mentally handle it or they can't prove it, right? Usually those are like the reasons, but never have I heard a reason of they were afraid that Saberspark's audience would dox them. And that's definitely a reason, but then it's weird to acknowledge that as a possibility in your head, but then think that a public call out is a good idea. Okay, logically, right? I don't know what she was thinking, because even if she was anonymous, do you really think Saberspark's not going to know who you are?
Yeah. Well, even if it was going to go into a legal proceeding, then they would know who you are.
It's not even just that. I'm sure he would remember it, right? It's kind of crazy. Why you expected him not to know who you are? That's just so weird. And then she was reckless enough to include her own docs information in the Dropbox, and it's that's awesome. Good stuff. Great job. But right, that Emmy stuff happens a little bit after. We're kind of we're kind of tripping over ourselves a little bit, because you see, Saberspark did respond, and his response was decent. I think I've definitely talked about this before. His response definitely proves very thoroughly that KP and Brody Fandom are malicious actors. Right? He does deny the allegations, which I don't know how much you could realistically go into them. I remember, I know, I've already talked with Ann on this on stream before, but I don't know how deep he can go into it. But I know, the common criticism was, I wish that he kind of went more into the actual.
That was my issue with it, because while yes, it was good in showing a lot of the maliciousness, and just a lot of the weaselly stuff that Brony and KP were doing. In terms of the actual allegations, he says pretty much he just says it's false. Now it could also just because because he's going for legal proceedings, so he can't really speak much. But a little bit more than that, and I think that was my biggest issue. It just seemed like he barely talked about it in terms of response. It was just mainly going after the people who were pushing it, which was fine. But I wish I wanted more out of it personally.
Yeah, I mean, what's the saying, right? Even if they prove that they're liars, right? What's the saying? A broken clock could even be right twice a day.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's I think it does definitely do a good job to show that they are bad faith actors. Bad faith actresses or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. I wonder how much he could have gone into it though.
That's what I was wondering. That's why I'm not super confident in that, just because I don't know how deep of how much he can or can't say. But I felt like he could at least give us more than just it's not true. That's why. I know we're supposed to get more, but he is supposed to because he's interviewing. So he got interviewed by somebody. I'm not supposed to leak, but he interviewed somebody recently. So that's why I'm kind of putting the pieces together, that if he could speak on that interview, why can he say in the interview?
Yeah,
just type of thing. So, I don't know.
I think the wasn't the reason he gave is it was because of the legal aspects.
Yeah.
He wasn't sure what he would say.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that does.
I feel like if you're making a response, you should probably know what you can or can't say. Especially under allegations like this. I guess that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, Ann. We'll see how they treat you later. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But speaking of malicious bad faith actors, I mean, there was Brony, right? No. You got a little excited. Yeah, no, you jumped the gun there, didn't you? Speaking of, pointing a gun at yourself. No, I'm kidding. That's not what happened. Brony Fandom, right? See, this, I'm gonna tread lightly on this one. They definitely need help.
Yeah.
To say the least. They 100% need help. Fucking hell. I know it's ran by two people. Specifically, the person I'm going to be talking about is Bonk6. The other person, I forget their name, but they're not too bright either. But this Bonk6 person, bro, they need lots of fucking help, because holy shit. What was it? The rape thing was kind of being contested, and it's oh, if you guys don't believe he's a rapist, there's something wrong with you. And they were just crashing out. They didn't know what RAIN was, which is fucking insane if you're going to deal with a rape case. like if you're the one leading it, like I don't, it's probably not common information for like the average individual to know what rain is, but if you're putting yourself in the position to lead a rape situation, right? Like you should at least know the basic resources that should be used at your disposal when handling something like that. Like it's just so weird. And it's like, let's see. But then yes, there's the infamous streams that they had on Twitch and Twitter. And that's fucking hell. They fucked their credibility for the rest of their like online presence. I don't know if they're ever going to come back. I haven't personally seen them lurking because it's like the other person that's running the like Brony Fandom account. I have no clue what's going to happen with Bonk.
I believe Bonk went to Blue Sky.
Interesting. That's a place where they deserve. No, I'm kidding. But you know, God. Speaking of failed endings, let's talk about Doodle Tones.
Oh, brother, this one stinks.
Oh,
like the diaper.
Dad. Yeah, you know, diaper tones. And a real alias that they lied about for years for no reason. Well, other than to victimize themselves. You know, the usual stuff. And that's all we have to say about No, I'm kidding. No, but yeah, no, Ant, you're gonna be a little bit
No, I have avoided this like the plague, so I'm going into this raw. All right, I'm raw dogging. Okay.
Yeah, buddy.
Going in blind. So I loosely know basically nothing about
actually,
this.
You know what, Ant, you could be my you could be my little audience here, right? You're gonna be like, the little raw reaction audience of like understanding of like these situations. Now let's say, right, George Raccoon. Okay, Ant.
Sure.
Now, I want you to understand this. Doodle Tones, like, defended George Raccoon. Now, you might not be fully understanding why that's a wrong thing, but, they waited 2 years after their drama and after their whole thing, right, to then actually make a video defending them. Now, here's a banger, right? And the video literally starts off with George Raccoon admitting to what they did and saying that it was indefensible and wrong. Okay. See, that's a banger. But you know what? You might be wondering, what did they admit to? Well, buddy, am I proud to explain to you. They're a child groomer. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, great.
But yeah, you see, but they do it in a very interesting way. Now, okay. They've had several conversations with minors, as you do as a child groomer, but they had like an NSFW account. This is something we'll start, just to put the bases at. They had an NSFW 18 plus Twitter account, right? Doodle Tones was a little malicious with this. They try to just say like they, let minors in, but like how it was described is like George Raccoon would literally like only add people if like they were the one like going to them to add them. So that pretty much means any minor was added on there. It means that George Raccoon went out of their way to find these minors to like let them in. Which, that means they were finding children. They were searching. They're on the hunt, Ant. Okay? They wanted to find. But, yeah, obviously, the NSFW thing, bad. But, to move on, we find a very rare kink. I feel like I'm learning a new kink every month. This person has a thing for magic. Okay? Magic? Which, yeah, they really love classic magic. Okay, and that's what gets their rocks off. Okay, whether it's like the chair trick, like these are old magic tricks. Okay, they love they probably like moan when a bunny gets pulled out of a hat. Like this person's a fucking freak. Okay, but another thing to establish about this person, they're a huge fan of Cinderella. Now they Snow White. Potato, fuck off. Okay, anyways, so Snow White, right? Huge fan of Snow White. Okay, right. Now, they tried to deny, and I say try to, very, very sternly here. They tried to deny, right, that they don't have a sexual attraction to Snow White uniform, right? Now, and
yeah.
So, I want you to kind of come to this conclusion, right? If a person, right, really loves a Snow White dress, they own one themselves, okay? They own one themselves, okay? And then they wore a Snow White dress only in circumstances where they're, sexually pleasing themselves, right? would you think it's fair to come to the conclusion that they have a sexual attraction to Snow White suits?
I
Snow White
think
dresses.
so.
Now, you see, that's not even the only thing. That's not even the only thing. You see, they were in talks with 2 different 16-year-olds.
No, my lord.
Okay. And they drew these 16-year-olds in this magic setting, but get this, they were drawn in Snow White dresses.
Oh, no.
In the sexual kink. Which, now, we have come to that conclusion, right? That they get off to Snow White dresses, right? They've also heavily encouraged a minor, I believe, were they 14 yen? I can't really remember.
I believe it was 14, yeah.
That to buy a Snow White dress. And was really pressing this kid to even you ask their parents for a Snow White dress, and was giving them the link. You want to know how Doodletown sweat for that?
How?
They're just cross-dressing. I'm sorry. Cross-dressing was for the cake thing. It's they're just asking them to buy a dress or some bullshit like that. Dead.
What?
But yeah, no, they brushed off them wearing a Snow White dress to the magic stuff that they get off to as, they're just cross-dressing. There's nothing sexual about cross-dressing.
It's
just dead. It's dead.
Lord.
Dead. And they were completely fine. Right? They were completely fine with those 2 kids being drawn in a sexual environment.
Well, here's the thing about that, right? So the actual video that Doodle put out about George Raccoon, they only went and talked about the stuff that happened in 2019 with Leo, which was the name of the minor, 14-year-old. I can't remember the exact age, but I'm going to go with around that age. They don't include the parts about the how old were they? 16?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so they didn't include that, but it did not mean that Doodle didn't know, because we have access to Doodletone's DMs with George Raccoon, and we can see that they use George's own defense document as research, where George admits to talking to these 2 other minors. Does Doodle talk to these other minors? No. And Doodle's reasoning is because that they had them blocked, even though they had several other avenues to talk to them about it. And we may go into this topic, we're going to go into this topic a bit with Doodletones, but it's really interesting that they make this point, because they complain about someone not reaching out to Doodle in Cloak and Dagger, an entirely unrelated thing, right? They complain that they don't reach out to Doodle because they could just talk to anyone around them. They could talk to Lyle, they could talk to Heaton. They have all these other people. They have ways of talking to them.
I want to talk to Lyle.
Yeah, but but for this specific situation, they're like, yeah, well, they had me blocked, so there's no way I could have talked to them, right? It's so bullshit.
Oh my god.
But they just don't include it in the video, because obviously, how would that look? They wouldn't be able to defend their bestie, George Raccoon.
Which, there was confirmation that they were also defending George behind the scenes.
Okay, so added thing, right? Okay, so even before this video came out, in 2019, when this document came out and everything about George came out, Doodletones made a stream to defend George Raccoon, and they even mentioned this in the video they made, but they put a lot more of an onus on the victim and was basically victim blaming, even though they did that in the entire video, but, tit for tat. In that entire 2-year span between 2019 and 2021, where the video came out, they had been going around the SEC, slideshow commentary, always from people in the Cloud Palace, which is Doodletone's server, and basically singing George's praises, he's not that bad, I hate that people are calling him this awful person behind the scenes, warming people up to the idea of George's defense video in 2021, which just let George, and it worked. The video worked. George was let into the community, and the victims felt obligated to apologize.
Oh, that was another thing with the George Raccoon video. Yeah, another thing with the George Raccoon video. They also, kept trying to say that the minor didn't set a boundary with George Raccoon, so that was more on the minor's fault. How could a George Raccoon known?
What?
Yeah. So Doodletones makes a point by saying in Leo's document they say how uncomfortable they were about George, but if you look at these messages, there's no sign of that at all. Leo didn't set a boundary with George. which is insane. Yeah, because it's up to the minor to set a boundary with an adult. Okay, doodle tones. Okay.
Yeah, that
okay,
makes
kitty
sense.
tones.
Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're just sweeping for. Okay, they're completely sweeping for this person.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no,
That's
Doodle Tones has
devious.
pretty strong arms to sweep, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit more too.
Oh,
But
no, I don't like how you
to put-
said that.
to put a tiny, teeny pause on Doodle Tones, there has to be something to also explain for context. Now, there's a person, right, named Jace. Now, this person was very interested to learn about. It apparently wasn't even really common knowledge. You see, why is Jace relevant? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but one quick note could be that Jace was unironically, dating Doodle Tones during some of the stuff, right? But they're exes now. They're exes now. This was a call uploaded on Rin's channel. I thought it was pretty interesting because it shows what would I say? Like, there's some people that I don't know how well you know, Ant. Like, there's a person named June, which I don't even think you know that person very well.
No.
But a person that might ring a bell is Heaton.
Yeah, I know Heaton.
Right? And I think what's interesting about this call is that they kind of show some of these people's true characters because they got leaks from Cloud Palace. Like, they were able to see screenshots from Cloud Palace, which was a server that Doodle Tones was ever so desperately trying to hide. Yeah, which we'll definitely get more into Cloud Palace, the hiding of it later, for sure. But what's crazy, right? Rin was a person that I would say was wrongfully went after for a lot of things. I mean, Rin did not deserve a lot of things. This was a person that got grounded from the internet for a year because their mother was contacted and they were not able to use the internet. So within this time, people like June would try God, I didn't even expect them to be brought up in Cloak and Dagger, right? But June would bring up Rin and falsely frame them as a slanderer. Okay. Yeah. Which is fucking insane. He and Mitsuri, right? Actually, really, I don't even know if they were successful, but they attempted to dox Rin through FBI tips because they were mad at them. Yeah, through FBI tips, which is fucking insane, right? And then Jace was even talking about what was it? They wanted Rin to kill himself and said that they had the noose or so. They were fucking insane. Okay, they're all fucking ludicrous. And these people, this call, I think is very important to even note before going into Cloak and Dagger, because these the three I mentioned are pretty relevant and reappearing people within the Cloak and Dagger situation. And it's insane with some of the points that they try to hold on some of these other people while also being piece of shit doxers, slanderers, and just a fucking piece of shit all around. Even fucking a name that will be really more important in Cloak and Dagger, person named Ellie, right? Now, I have very mixed thoughts about this person. Okay, you know what? Fuck it, right? Actually, you know what? We'll wait for Ellie. I'll get more to Ellie when it makes more sense at Cloak and Dagger. But I have very mixed thoughts on some of these people. It's fucking insane. They're all ludicrous, and they are all just moral arbiters. They try to be moral arbiters of justice while also being piece of shit slops that have done egregious things to someone for no fucking reason.
I mean, for Heaton specifically on Rin, they labeled them as sort of serial harasser that was stalking them, and that was what led into them getting barred from using the internet for a year because they Heaton had gone to Lio and was yeah, this person's this awful harasser, they're stalking me, which kind of led into Rin getting absolutely dogged on by everyone in the SEC ACC.
Apparently, the stalking in question was just them having a knowledge about an alt account that was publicly known. That apparently was a stalking in question. It's an alt account that Heaton owns that literally is not a secret to any degree. And it's really? That's classified as stalking to you freaks? The fuck? That's what got this person rid from the internet for a full year because they knew that you had an alt account? Yeah, no, it's fucking ludicrous.
That's wild.
Heaton, I think, is genuinely if we're going to talk about people needing mental help, dude.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of times Heaton has just lashed out at people and gotten schizophrenic on people for no reason is actually insane. It's like, I'm glad that they're gone now. I mean, their whole recent thing that they got, like, you know, ousted for is because they were getting mad that Lio was helping out Chuli, and they were getting mad that their old friends, right, were kind of being, you know, thrown under the bus. You know, Avi Haltman, you know, local child predator.
Oh yeah.
Kaden Monroe, their ex that had grooming tendencies. Desi Monster, who lied actively and even
Not
didn't really care about the child.
No!
Yeah, not didn't care about the children's safety, but more their reputation. You know, these awesome people, right, that were being called out
Good people
by like Chuli as well. Yeah, great, good people. We call them good beans here, okay? But you see, it's crazy though.
This is good news.
Yeah, good. Yeah, bees. Yeah, no, you see, this is what like Heaton was unironically getting like really upset about, because it's like another thing too, right? To establish, Heaton and Chuli don't have good history at all. No. Okay, so Chuli, just to like describe a little bit, they had a very fucked up traumatic experience with Faghost. Faghost was a horrendous person. If we've talked a little bit about Faghost, but just a little recap. I feel like I'm having to go branch to branch to branch for this. But like Faghost, right, was a person that admitted to like sexually assaulting 2 drunk women and making them silent about it, but then tried to say that they were punishing themselves and that story was fake. So whether that's even real or not, I don't even fucking know. But specifically with Chuli, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Yen. But I'm pretty sure that they said like that person like committed suicide, like a woman committed suicide, and like try to like pin that more onto Chuli and like Ponder at the time.
It was like Chuli and Ponder was like because they were under the impression, what was it? It was like, I think it was something along the lines of someone was harassing Faghost or something, like, but it was actually just a sock puppet account made by Faghost, and that person had like quote unquote killed themselves, but obviously because it's Faghost controlling the account, you know, Faghost had basically made these people think that they had killed caused someone to kill themselves,
which I'm pretty sure, just as like really just kind of like, you know, make the point even more crazier, is like Chuli was 16 at the time too, right? Like when dealing with Faghost. So it's like this, like that. I can't even imagine like joining commentary at a young age, right? Or joining the community at a young age. You're 16 and like someone's genuinely trying to convince you that what you did caused someone to genuinely kill themselves. Like I fucking can't. Like that is like just a lot to put onto someone. And just like I would be so pissed if I found out like you lied to me with that. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like I fully get why Chili would be upset. But that's only important. Yeah. However, you see, then there was a situation. Like Heaton was just going at Chili, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure Heaton was trying to compare Chili to Faghost, which it's like, dog, what? How the fuck are you this schizophrenic, dog? Like, has Heaton ever made a good point in their life? Like, has Heaton ever said like a logical thing in their fucking life? Like, I fucking can't with them, bro.
I think even at one point in Twitter, like on like old, I think the log's still there, but Heaton basically being like, "Yeah, I can't believe you guys are going after Faghost. You're like like they need help, okay? They don't need harassing." It was some bullshit, right?
Heaton related,
like, dude.
Heaton related to Faghost was like, are they really this bad?
Christ, fucking hell.
Yeah, but like Heaton is fucking insane. I mean, I feel like I keep hearing new things about them all the time. Like even with that Spoctor shit that gets referenced in like the Cloak and Dagger, like with Fran, like that was like a minor at the time. Apparently, they called them something like a Dong Gobbler, knowing that they were a minor just as an insult. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bitch, dude? You are a fully grown woman.
It was basically Heaton serially harassing a minor for an insane period of time. I think there was other stuff going on, but for some reason, like more important stuff. I can't remember what situation it was at the time, but they were more focused on harassing this minor than what the fuck was going on around them.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not gonna lie, right? I know, like, it's easier to like look at this in retrospect, right? But like, I just don't know how anyone could have like been okay with that. Like, especially if people like Fuchsia Butters were being outed with some with one of the things being like really fucking disgusting comments they made to someone that they knew was a minor, right? You could argue that Heaton did the same exact thing with Fran in that situation, because apparently Don Gobbler wasn't even the only thing they said. That was just one of the many genius insults that they came up with to harass a minor with.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Heaton is. Yeah.
I think it's just an interest. It's interesting how you say that about retrospective. I think even at the time of all these things happening, you would have every once in a while you'd have the people like Akuma who would be like questioning a lot of the people that were doing stuff in ACC, but there was never really like enough of a hook to grab onto to like make a solid point against it. Like you have that little thing in your head like, something's not right here. But now, like looking back on it, and this is why all this stuff gets revisited now, because of like what we know about these people's like core characters. It's so interesting looking back on it in retrospective, like Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, like even like with Cloak and Dagger, a couple things that I keep hearing claims, especially with Rome Key or whatever, like Keystone or whatever the fuck, right? I keep hearing, Keyblade. I keep hearing, right, that people are saying like, you know, people kept like saying in my comments that like this person's like a child groomer, and I'm genuinely gonna like try looking for the document because I'm gonna be so fucking real, right? After seeing Doodletone's poor display of trying to like say Vigil was like, you know, a child predator, like their evidence was so fucking horrendous. But actually, before I even fully get into that, let's put a pin into that because I'm jumping myself. Okay, so Ant, welcome to Cloak and Dagger.
Oh,
all right.
Gosh, I've heard of this. Yeah.
This takes 7 to 8 hours to get through the full thing,
and
that doesn't even explain. So, and I just recently finished it yesterday. All right, I'm practically invincible. No, kidding, but no, essentially, right? We got this. So, first call, right? First thing, there's a situation, right? I got to fill you in. So, do you know V Omega, Ants?
I know the name, yeah.
Well, I know. Yeah, I see. Real. See, V Omega was a pretty well-known child predator. They were ousted for that. They were a child groomer. Okay, and there was some logs shown in like the George Raccoon video, and they're just fucking disgusting, bro. They try to get they try to like get a miner to watch like what was it, like furry porn or some shit like that.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. Doodle used V Omega as an example of like this is what actual predation looks like in the George Raccoon video, even though what they showed just kind of reinforces the idea that George is a groomer.
Yeah,
so it's really interesting.
Yeah, irony at its finest. But you see, Ant, we're gonna like show. You see, V Omega, child predator. Okay.
Okay.
Then
okay to start.
so then, right? Because this is where the domino effect really falls, right? But then there's a person named Vigil, right? Now this person was friends with V Omega, and how far does that friendship go? I'm not too sure. They didn't bother to like show any logs if there was any, or they didn't really go as far as into it. Like even like I'm pretty sure even like Tippy at a point says they don't even know the extension of how close they are or anything like that. But apparently they were allegedly enabling V Omega, which is obviously fucking bad. Duh, no shit. So I think it's also interesting too because I think they knew that V was obviously bad. They knew that V Omega was like a child predator, right? Like a child groomer, right? They knew this. They knew this, and like it even was like confirmed in DMs, like where they said like something along the lines of like, "Man, I'm glad that like Jar doesn't know, or else he'd use it as a point against me." I'm like dead.
Yeah, that was in Cloud Palace. Interesting enough.
Yeah, fun stuff actually. But you see, they're like. You would think that would be the main focus, right, Ant? Yeah, you know, why is Vigil, you know, enabling this person? No, fuck you, Ant. You see, it's actually we're focusing on 4 other people, okay, that just knew about this friendship. Okay? They knew about the friendship existing. And what's interesting, because we'll get into it enough, let's see, one of them that gets way more focused than the other 3 was a person named Tippy. Okay?
Tippy.
Then there was like
Tipster,
Tippy. Tippy Jockey. No, but anyways, right? There was Tippy. Then what was it? There was Neko
Shadow.
Neko Shadow. The other 2 kind of escaped me, considering I don't think they really like were more relevant than that.
Mal,
the first call.
I think it was the name.
Mal, and then I think one started with a D, but I can't remember. But yeah. Anyways, these 4 people got a lot of focus, right? Because they simply knew, like, they just knew about the friendship existing. And they didn't really say anything about it in the server. So what I find interesting, because there's a theory that's attached to this ant, and this is going to make a lot more sense for this to explain. There's a theory that Diddletones wanted to protect the Cloud Palace. All right, and unironically, use these 4 as sacrificial lamb to basically put Lio off their tracks. Yes, to put Lio off the track, so Lio didn't feel like digging into the Cloud Palace and just looked into these 4 people. Now, what's interesting that kind of like affirms this, there's a lot of things that affirm this, right? Diddletones in the beginning was actually just going to have like a civil conversation with these people in a call. At like before, this is before Lio's knowledge about it, by the way. They were just going to have a civil conversation in the SCC courthouse or whatever, right? And it was going to be like a little slap on the wrist. Then like it was never going to be a public spectacle. That would have been it, right? That is unironically what Diddletones' plan was. But then Lio Convoy caught wind of it, and then how Lio describes it as soon as Lio found out about it, Diddletones all of a sudden wanted to kick these people out.
Yeah. Wow,
it's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So this first call, has Diddletones having these 4 people, right? Lio Convoy and Heaton Mitsuri.
Favorite person.
Yes, local doxer. But fucking hell, right? These 2 people are in a call, and what I find weird, right? Because there's actually a 5th person I have to introduce to you, Ant. All right, there's a person named Keyblade. Now, Keyblade, right, is defending Tippy because they've been close friends with Tippy, like, for a while. This actually got led to, like, Tippy, like, Key, like, being called a simp for Tippy. They're also dating, like, that Neko Shadows person, but, like, I don't even think that's crazy that they even made that, like, a public spectacle, to be honest. That had, like, no relevance at all.
They show their DMs, like, of the breakup. Susie showed, like, the breakup DMs between...
Like, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like, what the fuck, bro? But, yes. Anyways, right? Key was defending Tippy because they felt like these 4 were being wrongly canceled. Now, I will say, I think it was a little over-exaggerated. I know what Lio was getting at, but I think that they were kind of jumping the gun on these 4 people a little bit, in my personal opinion. Because it's like, they framed it like these people were, like, intentionally putting minors in danger because they didn't let this friendship be known. Which, I feel like that is an extreme conclusion to come to for a guilt by association thing. Like, I can understand where the argument starts with that. Like, okay, they could have told more people, which one of them actually did go to Diddletones, apparently, according to them, but Diddletones just conveniently forgot that person went to them, and that never got investigated into anymore. So that's fun. But no, like with Key though, right? Just focus more on them, right? They were getting mad at a person named Ellie that I mentioned earlier, right? Now you want to know what they did to Ellie?
What's that?
You see, Ellie, right? Was going through not so great stuff. All right, not gonna make any light of that. They were having a suicidal ideation, and apparently they attempted and were in the mental hospital, right? Because they were going through some really horrible shit. Now, Key is like, says, I hope that they fucking kill themselves and shit like that. And like knowing this knowledge and like was like going fucking crazy on Ellie, like saying like, what was it? I think they literally said like that they hope that they succeed next time or some shit like that. Some bullshit like that.
It was something like based on loads of curious stuff because they got angry that Ellie had shouted at Tippy. Or something like that.
Yes. And this we'll keep in the back of our heads for a little bit, but we'll go into like that whole Ellie Key shit. But that call happens after these 4. Right? What's interesting is these 4 are kind of like held into the call for a little bit. And it's very obvious that Heaton and Lio are briefed on these 4. But another thing that I feel like that this was like a successful gay op, in my opinion, is because after these 4, right? After these 4 are kind of like, torn to thread, like, shreds a little bit. And then they just kind of leave, right? Then Key comes in. Okay? Now, it's very obvious for some reason Diddletones didn't brief Lio or Heaton. And it's very obvious to me, like, this is a little bit of schizo theory myself, alright? Diddletones, like, I feel like had to recognize that Heaton Mitsuri and Lio Convoy at this moment were very emotionally driven.
Yeah.
And Ellie is a close friend to these people, okay? But Diddletones, for some reason, didn't tell them what Key said about Ellie. It was very obvious given by the interactions. It was very obvious given by the reactions of these people in the call. Now, what's interesting, right, is Key comes in there. It's very clear that Diddletones doesn't like Key, but because they're defending these four. But then they start off, with the actual point being why'd you tell Ellie to kill themselves? Right away, Ellie and Lyle are like, what? The fuck? Why would you do that? And they were just yelling. It was, keep in mind, this was supposed to be a one-on-one with Diddletones and Key, right? But because they didn't brief, Heaton or Lyo, right? It basically just turned into Lyo and Heaton just bullying the fuck out of Key, right?
Keep in mind, right? This is back in when was it? I think it was still back when Lyo was having his anger issues.
Yeah, this was around, unironically, would have been around the Rosa Call era.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for both parties. But essentially, what is interesting as well, what was I was going to say? Yeah, these two are very emotionally driven. They reacted off of instinct, but Diddletones didn't brief them, which is a really weird thing in my opinion. But they went, Key's confidence completely fucking shattered, because these two grown adults are just yelling and screaming at the mic the whole time. Key has stuttering issues and autism, I guess, and this is not a great environment for them. And they went from having some resonance of confidence to crying, apologizing, to begging for Ellie's forgiveness and Diddletone's forgiveness in the call, which is fucking insane. Okay, that is that even being seen as normal is insane, bro. But the call ends. And Diddletones is actually really horrible at cutting their VODs. And the reason why I bring that up is because at the end of the call, Diddletones forgets to cut something. They're in the call with Jace. And they're just laughing about this. They're laughing how well this went. They're like, wow, that call was crazy, dude. Wow, that was insane. They're laughing how well this went. And the reason why this is also interesting, is because remember that thing I mentioned with Vigil? Where they brought up being friends with V, and they're it would be bad if Jar knew or something like that. You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, the person they said that to was Jace as well. Jace fully knew about Vigil's association with V.
Yeah.
But never got held at the stake. This is Diddletones' partner, and more importantly, Diddletones always knew. In fact, Diddletones, right, said that they would be a hypocrite if they had an issue with someone being friends with someone problematic, because they were friends with George Raccoon. So they were cool with Vigil being friends with V Omega because they were friends with George Raccoon, which is kind of interesting. So what does that say about George?
Another interesting aspect of it is it was how, if you look, because I've seen Cloud Palace logs, the way that you know how it's just explained, these people got absolutely torn to shreds for knowing that Vigil was friends with V, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what happened to V? Oh, no, not V, Vigil. He's just yeah. I Doodle went to them and DM was I think it would be best if you left, haha. And they were and Vigil was yeah, I think that's for the best. And Doodle even was I wish you the best, And they left on amicable, terms. Never got a call, never got logs between them and V. They just left.
Yeah, they
Meanwhile,
even that the video.
Yeah, as soon as Lyo learned about anything to do with this, ripped to fucking shreds.
Yeah, because they've done so many crazy shit, and there's so much crazy shit that happened in the Cloud Palace, which is why I even referred to the Jace thing with the Rin call, because all those things were the doxing and the slandering, all that shit was happening in that server, and they would have found this way sooner as well. And Diddletones just actively being cool with George Raccoon and being cool with Vigil, being friends with V Omega, and that whole that DM is fucking crazy. That DM is actually insane. I'd be a hypocrite if I had an issue with it. Dude, that's the whole Cloak and Dagger. That is literally the whole entirety of Cloak and Dagger. Now you think, Ant, right? You probably think that this is where it ends, right?
Right.
With Cloak and Dagger. You think this is where it ends? No. Idiot.
Not surprised.
Stupid. Stupid. Idiot. Stupid. Yeah. Oh, wait for it. Oh. Oh, got him. Anyways, you see, that was only the 1.5-hour video. You see, the 6-hour video is filled with a lot of interesting things. Interesting by like, some of them support the theory, but a lot of it is unproductive. Okay. So, Doodletones actually in the Senate call with Lio, made an agreement that if Key didn't come out with their own response or apology or whatever, that they would have the call, posted on Lio's channel. Okay? And that currently has over 100,000 views. And these SCC creators in this situation are like nobodies, bro. So this is literally what they're going to be known for, which is fucking insane. But I don't know what is crazy about it too. Like they give like a little bit of a recap, but right off the bat, we're going into like what is it? I think the first call was with Zeph. Yeah, the first call was with the person named Zeph. Now you might be wondering, what the fuck is Zeph? Well, I'll proudly explain it to you, Ant. You see, the thing is, right? Zeph was a friend of Tippy and Key. Okay. And what they essentially did was go into a person's DMs. Okay, that was allegedly a victim of V Omega. They were going to cover the situation publicly, and what Zeph did was just ask like if they could possibly not. Right now, personally, I do feel like the call is not really that like productive per se. Like it doesn't really like. I don't even think the call should have been included in my opinion. It's just so far off. But essentially, right? They go into these DMs. They have a conversation about like the productivity of like like would it be productive if like there was coverage of this? Like because their concern, I guess, was Tippy and Key were allegedly receiving threats and harassment. That's what this Zeph person was briefed on. So what they were trying to do was ask this person to not cover it because that could potentially make the harassment worse. That was their goal. I do agree with June in the call that like for one thing only is that it would have been way better if Zeph actually focused their attention on the actual people giving Tippy and Key issues rather than going to a person that was just going to cover it, because then that would have been like fair. Everyone would have been like on the side of like, hey, that's fucked up. What the hell is wrong with you? But they didn't do that. It's not the smartest thing, but I don't think they came out of a place with malicious like intent, and they try to frame it like this guy was silencing someone, which is like, dude, the DMs are not even hostile. They just had like a disagreement with it being productive. Like the person could have still made a video about it. Like who the fuck cares what Zeph has to say? Like realistically, like honestly, like silencing would imply that there was blackmail or a threat or anything like that, but there wasn't. And you want to know who was in this call confronting Zeph?
Who? Who?
Well, we got June, who was the slanderer I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Obviously, we got to have Doodletones. And one that was kind of interesting, really trying to be like Lio, was Nezzy Monster.
Oh, of course.
And Nezzy was being super fucking hard, and so was June. June was an annoying bitch. But Nezzy was trying to be super fucking hard on them. They're all being like moral arbiters of justice, which this looks terminally online, right? Because essentially what this call is even about is what this creator going into another private DMs of another creator and just got turned into like a public spectacle of a call. It's like, really? Like, why? Like, realistically, right? Like, I feel like these people are pussies, but she could have just said fuck off. Like, genuinely, right? If she really strongly disagreed with it, I don't know why she just didn't say fuck off and just block. Like, why did this have to be a whole confrontation call that was over an hour? Like, this was so lame to me.
I'd love to, because I can't remember the call off the top of my head, but it would be interesting to see how it got to these people, if that makes sense. Like,
well, apparently the person sent it to like Nezzy and Doodletones directly that Zeph went to. Yes, it's like
more
so much for silence, by the way. Yeah, no, so much for silence, by the way. Yeah, you silenced them. That's why they directly came to us and spoke to. Yes, fuck off, dude. Oh yeah, one thing I did kind of jump over a little bit. So the Vigil thing I was talking about earlier. This is why I'm skeptical of like any of these people being called child predators. So when Doodletones made their video, that Vigil person that was friends with V, there was a person in the comments that said something purely like in the comments. They had like a call, right? They like not interrogated but more interviewed, right? They said in Doodletones comments that this person made like I think it was something along the lines of like saying, "I'd let you rape" or "I'd rape you" or something, some weird comment, right? and to this person that was allegedly 17. Okay, now the part about this that I don't really like is all we get is testimony from this person. There's no DMs, there's no evidence, there's no admits, there's no going to Vigil about it, nothing. There's literally nothing. And personally, right, it's fine if you want to reach out to people. That's all cool and dandy, right? But now over 100,000 people who are like mindless sheep just like saw you just frame this guy as like a child predator and just probably thinks Vigil is like a child predator now, but purely off of something with absolutely no fucking evidence. Like, I would never platform that over like in a million years. That is crazy.
Yeah,
but
and again, I'll bring up the point I brought up earlier. Doodle Tones got really, really annoyed at this random like normie later on in one of the other calls. Like, they didn't reach out to them. How didn't you reach out to me? You could reach out to me, you know, to confirm that to confirm information about me. Meanwhile, they won't have the same race for Vigil.
Yeah, that's so stupid, bro. But yeah, that Vigil thing happens. Then that like whole Zeph call happens, which was just so useless. But then they ended up being nicer to them by basically saying, here's what we want you to do. This is what we want you to do for your friends, okay? Like, they were just being really controlling. Whatever. They're very, very fucking controlling. I don't know. It's super stupid. But Zeph kind of got let off with like a slap on the wrist or whatever. But then the next call, right? Now, what I find a little bit weird about this is, if you remember Key already like cried apologizing, maybe not directly, but like gave an apology for Ellie. Okay. Now, into this next call, right? It's Ellie confronting Key. This is over an hour long. Now, I get like being upset, but it was very clear that Ellie was emotionally driven because obviously you would be in a situation like that. Personally, I don't even think a call like that would have been necessary to do. Everyone already knows the action is bad. Mm-hmm. They've already apologized for it. It's like they've already taken accountability for it too. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it feels really weird to have the call like at that point. Like, I could agree what Key did was fucked up, yeah. But it's like, I feel like it was getting dragged because like mainly the two things that were being talked about was you told Ellie to kill yourself and that your date with Neko, like, you know, your relationship with Neko Shadows was bad because you were obviously definitely 100% cheating on them with Tippy, which is just such an insane assumption. They literally have nothing for. And they try to like frame it like worse than it is because all Key says is that they're just closer to Tippy because they've known Tippy way longer. They've known Tippy for like what was like 2 years before even like dating Neko Shadows. So it's like obviously in the sense of like just like a close like, you know, friendship, obviously, duh. Like, no shit that they're going to be closer, like, in that context, duh. Right. But it's like, they framed it as, oh, you secretly want Tippy. Oh, yeah, you want Tippy so good, bro. You want that Tippy. And it's like, fuck off. So that's the only reason why you're defending them. Or, like, dead. But, what was it? Like, but you know what makes this really hard for me to, like, take super seriously, Ant?
What's that, buddy?
See, you know what I put a pin in earlier when it came to Ellie?
Yeah.
You see, a thing I didn't mention that happened in the Cloud Palace. You see, the whole reason why we're caring about this is because this person told Ellie to kill themselves. Well, you want to know what Ellie said about Rin?
What? What did he say? What did they say?
They said something along the lines of murder is legal if nobody knows, and then they followed that up with, I'll put them in garbage bags. What? And it's like, yes. And it's like, you're a blatant fucking hypocrite. Genuinely. And it's like, how the fuck, right? Are you going to make a point? Like, I argued, like, on stream, like, I feel like that this is a bit worse, in my opinion, because it's like, you went through, like, this pain that happened to you, right? You went through this, like, egregious action that happened to you. It clearly affected you. It fucked with you so hard, right? Mm-hmm. You had such an issue with this that not once, not twice, but there was 3 calls with Key getting on them about this because the third one's a Senate that happens after this, which is like really fucking ludicrous. But like, you have 3 calls with this person. You expected them to have a public like response video apologizing for it or apologizing it on their Twitter, right? You wanted like you wanted their throat at this point. You wanted them gone forever from like the platform as well. But that's how you felt like it was fair, like for what would happen to Key. You thought it was really fucking damaging when it happened to you. But then you go on knowing how it felt and did it to somebody else. like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
That's wild.
It is fucking insane. And it's like, I know, like, I'm not gonna like say like they deserve to do more for Rin, because Rin, I think Rin is chill, right? But sometimes I feel like Rin could be a bit too forgiving to like the fucked up people, because it's like, fuck. Even though that Jace call, they were being way nicer to Jace than I feel like that they needed to be. And Jace was just like, at one point, just like, you know, trying to victimize himself, and like Lio actually pressed him harder on it for it. Because there was, okay, just a little mini segue, right, with Jace. Like, I'll go back into it. Jace, like, at one point, like, there was like a thread, right, that was made. Jace kept repeatedly saying that they either forgot, or it was a trauma response because they had like trauma with stalkers and they believe Rin was one, or that people just kept lying to them, and that they're just so easy to lie to. Well, there was a point that didn't really fly with that. There was a point that there was a unhinged thread talking about Rin, like, and saying extremely fucked up shit about Rin, and it's just horrendous, right? But they saw this publicly, and they tried to use the excuse that, oh, why is it so easy to lie to me? Now, they were gonna Rin was gonna like just move on to the next question. Lio kind of caught that. It's like, nobody lied to you here. This is what you publicly saw and were perfectly okay with. Like, this is genuinely, like, why are you even like trying to victimize yourself? And then, like, people caught on to that too, be like, yeah, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, you're victimizing yourself for something that you that no one manipulated for you for. And it's like, yeah, like, so I think like no issues with Rin. I think Rin's pretty chill. I just think sometimes it could be a little too charitable to the people that don't deserve it. And I know some people have that issue. And it's like, it's not really a bad thing of Rin. I just think, like, I think they need to be a little bit more, tougher on some people.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think with Ren also, I think they've gone through so much crap with these people. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just want to accept what they can from these people and get on with their life. Like, and I would not hold that against them. Obviously, I don't know if that's exactly how they feel, but I wouldn't be surprised, and it's
probably not far off. Yeah, I mean, again, not a bad thing of Rin, just personally how I would feel about it. Because the only reason why I would like even bring that up is because with Ellie, right? They were perfectly content with Ellie just saying I'm sorry or whatever for it. And it's like, dude, like, I mean, cool with Rin, that, like, if that's where Rin wants to end it, they're both grown adults, whatever, right? I'm not gonna pry into it too much, but it's like, I'm just surprised with, like, just from Ellie's side, right, that they expected, to respond to it in a video, like for Key to respond to it in a video, respond to it in a Twitter thread, right? But they think that all that they need to do is just say I'm sorry, like, in their own standards. It's blatant hypocrisy. Right. It's crazy to me. I don't think I know, like, some people like were saying like Ellie was like one of the good ones in this, but it's like, dude, how? like, I think it doesn't take that much nuance to understand that something bad happened to someone, but they're also not a good person. Like, I don't really see Ellie as a great person.
There's no such thing as a perfect victim.
Yeah, that's really what they tried going for, though. That is really what they tried going for. Like, that's what Doodletones wanted to frame Ellie as so hard, because that was like their main talking point when it came to Key.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, and it's crazy though too, because fuck me, man. Then there was a Senate call, a beautiful, beautiful Senate call. This Senate call consisted of a few people. Lio, Keaton, she was fashionably late, which I wish she just didn't show up, but whatever. June again, Doodletones, which they were fucking annoying. Then Nezzy Monster and Aaron?
Aaron Tempest.
Yeah, Aaron Tempest. Yeah, I was forgetting their last name. But some people said some evil things about Aaron Tempest at my comments, bro.
Aaron Tempest, the GOAT, like the only reasonable one for the majority of the call.
Yeah, some people actually try comparing them to like Kai Weiss if he was good, and I'm like, bro,
oh god,
like, what the fuck are you? That is foul, bro.
What? Because he's black? Like, what?
I don't know. No, it's the soy. It's like, it's how they.
The soy. I was gonna say, like,
yeah.
I didn't watch too much Kai Weiss because that's where my brain went.
Well, that's because you're racist, but honestly,
yeah, that's that as well. Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's just say, without further ado, let's start talking.
Oh, leave the guy alone.
They were way. Dude, I will take Aaron over the unhinged bitches any day, bro. Like, holy shit. June was insane. Nezzy was... Ellie made me want to die at some parts. Fucking Heaton is Heaton. And even fucking Lio Convoy was acting like an anime edgelord villain the whole time. And it's like, blood. Bro. So I'll take, over Screaming Bitch and, when you fuck with me, you're gonna regret it. I'll definitely
you're gonna get the claws.
Yeah, you mess with the cats, you get the claws. Like that's Lio. I'll definitely take, I just want to ask, basically for the panel here, I'll take that over any of those other options any day, bro. But there was 3 people that were mainly being confronted. Key, Tippy, again, and Music Brightly, which, Ted. They were catching strays, bro. Essentially, there's not even that much productive in the call. I'll mention it happened, but like, there's not really much new to learn about the call. I'm gonna be so like,
it was just a bunch of like sharks smelling blood in the water and just wanted to get their little digs in. And I know Lio explained that like a lot of it was like, oh yeah, we just want to just shout, have their fun, which I understand, but also so gay.
Dude, I mean, I'm gonna be so real though. I'm gonna be so real. What was the only thing I think is interesting that just kind of affirms the theory, right? You see, Ant. Here's the thing.
What?
Right? You see, isn't it interesting, Ant, that Doodle Tones doesn't yell at Key or doesn't yell at Tippy, but the one that they get most mad at in the call is the one that said that they were two-faced and a liar.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, not the person that told their friend to kill themselves, not the person that was friends with the friends of a predator, right? No, the person that said that they were a liar. Okay, I think that's pretty interesting considering looking back at it now. Doodle Tones was lying. I think it's very easy to tell that they were getting defensive, which is kind of funny. I'm not fucking downplaying it. No, but evil sound. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was my soundboard, by the way. Anyways, but they kind of just air them out. This is how cooked Music Bradley was. You know what a normie is, right? And like, you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
That would describe what Music Bradley is, because they were talking to like some other guy. I think his name was like Boonslayer, and they said, "Do you know who you're talking to?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm talking to Lio Convoy." And they all just started laughing because they weren't talking to Lio. Like, they didn't even know who Lio was, right? And Lio was just bewildered, like, how do you not know that wasn't me? It's like, dog, I'm gonna be so real. Normies are not gonna know you, bro. Like, Artcom is definitely a different field.
I think one of the points, like, Lio was like, I'm one of the easiest people to get a contact of, and you could have, and compared to all these people, you didn't get to contact me. And they kind of brush over this, even though Musically Bright says that they try to contact Lio, but that really got brushed over in the call.
Yeah, no, it did. It did. They 100% tried to say that they reached out and it just didn't go anywhere. Yeah. And that they also kind of brushed over that they reached out to Doodle Tones and Twitter DMs. Yeah. And it's like, that didn't really go anywhere either. It's like, what was so annoying about the environment of this call, though, Ant? They would say something, right? They would say a point. They would answer with something they don't like. They would shift the goalpost. And then they would answer, to that goalpost shift that they don't like. Then they would shift it again to try to make them look like retarded liars. And it's like, really? It's like, I bet you don't know what's on the, I bet you can't look up. Then they look up. It's like, yeah, it's a sky. No, I said on the top of your house. Yeah, the roof. No, the top of the inside of the house. The ceiling. No, the bottom. It's like, yeah, you fucking retard. You can't even answer basic questions. Like that would be like the dynamic of how the call would go, and it's super insufferable.
Like, one point they get angry at Tippy. They're like, Tippy, because Tippy was saying like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm really tired, because it was like, what? It was like
12 a.m. for them.
12 a.m. for them, and like, because I read your stream on this, it's so stupid. Because like, it's just like one after the other, right? It's like Lio's was like, well, it's 3 a.m. for me.
I swear I didn't pre-watch it either. I swear I didn't pre-watch it either. I just so predictable.
He's like, I haven't slept for like 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, when I did that, and I kid you not, right? It was so predictable. Right when I heard Tippy say, I did not, I haven't like it's 12 a.m. for me. I'm tired, right? I paused and I said, dude, they're gonna play Oppression Olympics. One of them's gonna say, I could definitely imagine Lyle being like, "Oh, you're tired? Well, it's 3 a.m. for me." And then I unpause it, and then Lyle says that. I pause it again. I'm like, "Well, who's next? Who wants to also say they're tired?" And as he chimes in, it's like, "Yeah, I haven't really had a lot of sleep recently." I pause it again. Okay, are we gonna get another one? And then it was Doodletones who was next.
I didn't really sleep at all. Yeah.
It was like, Dad.
Dude.
It was so stupid.
That's funny.
There was like it is so insufferable of how predictable they are in like these calls and environments. It's like I just know the type of people they are, so it's like it's very obvious what they're going to say next, especially when it came to that harassment thing too, right? Where they said like I even like did like this. I don't even know if Yen saw this, but like when they talked about like receiving harassment, I paused and be like, ugh, Lio's gonna like belittle it and be like, "Oh wow, that's really not that much. I deal with like way worse, right? Something along those lines, right?" I pause it like, "Yeah, we've gotten like 10 hate comments," and Lio's like, "Whoa, that's a lot." And it's like, "Wait, actually no, 20." It's like, "Oh, wow, bigger numbers." It's like, yeah, okay, buddy.
I do have like a bit of my own little schizophrenia on why like there's so many calls with this and why there's so much stuff put out, right? I think it was literally just Doodletones trying to really put the main focus on these 4 people and solidifying that as like there's nothing more to look. There's nothing. Don't look behind me. Don't look at the Cloud Palace. There's nothing more, right? But in the instance of like, let's focus hyper specifically on these people and what they did, and let's go right to Keyblade and how they told Ellie to kill themselves. And
let's really harp on that for 3 different calls.
Look, Lio, they're really easy to bully. Go get them. Like I genuinely wouldn't put it past Doodles. I genuinely wouldn't put it past Doodles to be like, yeah, I think you should like I can arrange a call between you and Keyblade, so you can get your issues out on them. I genuinely wouldn't put it past them.
Lio comes to the door. What's happening in there? Aurora Borealis? Can I see? No.
You're telling me Aurora Borealis, entirely located in your FCK? I mean, your
Cloud Palace.
Yeah, same thing, right? Yeah,
potato. But no, like fuck me. But then, right? And if you thought that this could not get any less productive, then there was a recorded call with Music Brightly and Tippy. The Normie and Tippy again with Doodletones, right?
Yeah.
And this whole it's like an 18-minute call. And Doodletones was going to be told that there's new information, right? Long story short, there was not new information, and we kept it in an 18-minute call that had nothing to do with anything. And I'm like, bro. And you know how this ends? You know how this call ends, though, and
how does this end?
There's a person named Firebolt that when they were 17, right, they were told like to keep quiet or something like that. 17, 18, they were told to keep quiet about Vigil with V Omega because like one of the victims asked them to, right? And Lio's just kind of like giving them a little lecture, right? Doodletones like painted as something wholesome, like it's kind of like a scout leader, talking to like a Cub Scout. Like I think that's actually what I'm going to draw to. And so like we get to see the horrendous image of like Lio in a Scoutmaster uniform. Like, but then right, it's just Lio being like, "Now, Firebolt, what I'll tell you. All right, this is pretty bad. Okay, just don't do this again. All right, like if you ever like get told to be quiet, don't. Okay, tell people about like this thing so that you could like let other people know so that they could also do something about it." Which
isn't that right, Doodletones?
Yeah, interesting. It's like that's pretty much the gist of Cloak and Dagger, right? Like, I went through like pretty much this recap of all the calls.
You recapped like 12 hours worth of content.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're welcome. So, Ed, when are you going to stream Cloak and Dagger, buddy?
Never. You'll never do it. I'm not touching it. You'll look down the road when I'm really bored and I'm like scraping for the surface for content, but maybe.
Yeah.
When did you last stream, buddy?
A week ago? Was it a week ago?
You sure?
Yeah, this guy has
like
horrendous
last
singing skills, bro. Like,
Yeah,
I started off the Doodle Tones thing with like Ant and Gamma just singing like the fucking Snake Eater song. It was evil.
That was one of my favorite streams ever. I got so much money from that stream. People donated to make me sing. That was awesome.
You got mugged.
No,
You got mugged.
We had beautiful singing voices. That's all I'm
You see,
gonna say.
and I feel like I just explained so much to you. I gotta ask, what do you think about it? Now, with this new given knowledge to you about Doodle Tones.
Awesome. Anyway, so let's move on. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, anyway.
Thank you, Ant. Thank you.
Well.
Well, that was a lot. How does this affect my grill making skills, though?
Yeah,
All right.
steak section. One of these days, if I'm still on YouTube, I'm gonna like have to do a cooking stream where I just cook steaks.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what you should do? You know what you should do?
What?
So there was something like on Killstream that they used to do. Like there was this one guy that like was making a video on Ethan Ralph, and like his background like footage was just him riding a motorcycle. You see, so he got innovative. So you know what you should do, Ant?
What?
Right? You should record yourself grilling steaks or burgers.
If there's any like bad, like I just imagine, right? It just gets more and more chaotic. Like the pan starts getting set on fire. He just leaves it in. Just playing blood in the background as screenshots are on the screen.
Dude, that'd be evil, dude. Like. It has like a body cam with like grilling.
Oh, dude, and the end of the video, right, would just be like, and now for the most important part of the video, the steak, and you're just like cutting it open.
Yeah,
just open it up.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, more meta, right? You should cook the steak to the quality of how you feel like, like you should have like a steak system, right? Like if you feel like you enjoyed the topic, right? Like really enjoyed the topic. It should be like, well done. And like just cut into it.
Really bad video, right? He just goes to like a cow farm.
I mean,
just a live cow.
Like today, I'm going to be giving you my opinions on different commentators through the steak. So if it's like all burnt and crisp, that's you get my opinion on them. If it's all like medium rare, that means I don't care. It's in the middle, So just like a black steak for Chris the Narc, and as I open,
Okay.
charcoal.
Okay, you see, I don't know, man. I think you get mogged all the time, man.
Not true. Not true. I always win.
Okay. And you forget, right? So Chris watched the call or the video that I put out for Toasty Vanilla, right?
Yeah.
He's like, he got to the part where I bring up your name. He's like, of course it's GivenAnt who's getting accused of harassing people. Like, of course it's this guy.
I didn't know that.
I should have known.
That's funny.
Dude.
That's
fucking mogged again.
I'd win. Okay, I would.
Dude, 3 strikes, you're out, Ant. Dude, like,
I would have
got
been
him
a long time ago, buddy. That's funny.
Dude, you're cooked. You're done. There's no coming back.
There is no coming back. That's funny.
At least you're going to call it a clout goblin, It's a lot better than what he says about me sometimes.
True.
It's all playful, though. It's all playful.
At least you're not a romantic goblin, so that's that.
Yeah, at least you're not into romantic goblins sexually. Anyways. That definitely does wrap up all the topics for this interview, right? Or podcast, however you want to call it, right? I think I had fun. What did you guys think? It was fun.
Great.
It was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. So you know what? I think I'm gonna have you guys say goodbye to the audience. I'll do the outro. So, Ant, you go first since you're forgettable. So.
Oh wow! Thanks, buddy. Just an outro to say like hi, bye.
No, just say goodbye. Just say goodbye. Just say goodbye, people.
See ya, I guess. I don't know. Bye.
Anyways, yeah, and then YenTheYan, you say goodbye to the friends at home.
This has been Amos, and goodbye.
All right, and that concludes the 3rd installment of Abstract Podcast. You guys have a great day. Remember to subscribe and leave a like if you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next installment.
Bye.
See ya.
Fuck off.